Hey everybody, Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses here with Shaquita Graham, and together we are Married Women's Business. You can find us at marriedwomensbiz.com. So, great topic here about Nick Cannon, and we just read a whole long post that he did where he's parting ways with NBC, and that's when he was the host, where he was the host of America's Got Talent. And if you haven't been living under a rock, even if you don't watch the show, I'm sure you've heard of it and you've seen him. And this, to me, actually took my level of respect for this man from here all the way up here. Shaquita, you saw the letter too, and you can speak to this. What did you think?
I love it. I mean, there's been quite a few Black men. I've just been loving the stance that they've been taking on their manhood and what they're going to, what they will and will not deal with related to racism and white supremacy. We're talking about Nick Cannon in this scenario. Then you had, I can't say his last name, but it's Kofi from Queen Sugar, who came out speaking about his love for Black women and challenging those who had a problem with it. Then you have the Patriots football players who are saying, look, I'm not going to see Trump, and I don't care what you think about it. So all of those men right there have just been very impressive with their stance on their Blackness.
Yeah. So, like I said, you can check out the whole spread that Nick Cannon did. It's on his Facebook page, posted there. But I want to say just what stood out to me was he started talking about the fact that NBC, it wasn't the first time where they kind of pulled him back and told him that, look, stop with all the Black jokes, stop sounding Black, all this stuff about trying to basically, like he said, control his voice, trying to, and he said in his words, he says that he didn't want to be treated like he was their property because he's not. And he's like, look, these people have paid me millions of dollars, and at this point, it is not even about the money. It's about me and my integrity and the fact that I will not be bought, and I will not be silenced, and I will not be treated like property for any amount of money. And he sealed it for me when he said, I prefer to be my own boss. And I'm not saying his exact words, I'm just saying how I interpret what he said. But his exact words was, because you know what, you can't fire a boss. So he's looking at himself as a boss, and he's like, if I'm the boss, you can't fire me. And he quit.
Right. I love it. And so, yeah, he had been on this NBC show for 8 seasons, from what I understand. And like you said, he said there's no amount of money worth my dignity or integrity. So basically, he did a joke on a completely different show, and it was saying something about Blackness, and I didn't see it. But he also alluded to the fact that many of his mentors cautioned him and told him that the system, the quote unquote system, would come down on him for speaking out, because he did do the no vote thing.
Yeah. He's been vocal. He's been very vocal.
Yeah, he has been vocal. And he said that, most of us, these are exact words from his Facebook post. He said, most of us don't realize that there are only 6 major corporations that control 90% of media in America. And the amount of minority executives is dismal. With this being the case, true equality in our industry is impossible. Just that phrase, like if people could understand just that phrase, true equality in our industry, he probably should have said in their industry, right. It's impossible. And then the last thing he says, that Dr. King said it best, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. And so many of us, when we go on these corporate plantations, when we live out our lives, and especially entertainers, again, I'm still of the mindset that we can't get free from, depending on entertainers or athletes. It's just not going to happen. They're part of an elitist class of assimilationists for the most part. But that being said, any Black person that has any self-respect for themselves and for their community, they will not be silent about the things that matter to their Blackness and to the continuity of our lives in general. So I applaud Nick Cannon.
I do. And, you know, he highlighted a lot of things that we're not aware of. Just broadly, broadly, that we're not aware of. First of all, one of the things that he said was that it wasn't the first time that they kept telling him, like, look, come on over here. You need to stop that. Stop talking all that. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that when you start to speak out in public and your source of money is people who you're, in essence, speaking out against, they don't have a problem with that, again, because they want you to stop that. It's like me talking about you, Shaquita, and then trying to be friends with you. You're going to say to me, like, look, it's either we're friends or you're going to stop talking badly about me. And the thing about it is Nick Cannon basically says, well, if telling the truth is a problem for you about whatever you're doing, then you can't be friends, you know? And he did mention that they paid him millions. And he's like, I'm just not gonna sell my, he used the word soul. He didn't say I'm not gonna sell my soul, but he did use the word soul. He's like, I can't do it. I just won't do it. And the thing about it is that for me is quite painful is that he really is making a big sacrifice, because again, what he stated was 90% of the media is owned by the very people that he just basically said this to. So now he's almost like one of those people who's blackballed and no one will ever hire again, you know?
And,
so
and that's the
huge sacrifice.
We have to relinquish that at some point. Like, there's a lot of entertainers that will ride that train until it falls off the tracks, and it always falls off the tracks. And this is the thing. What Nick Cannon recognized is that, like you said, it's a situation where the people who are feeding you, you're speaking against them. Now, you can only see that picture clearly if you realize that NBC, ABC, all of these Disney, that they are on the side of suspected white supremacists. We suspect them of being on the side of white supremacy. Now, I'm not going to go on record saying these people are white supremacists, but a lot of people feel that they're white supremacists, okay? And that the system, the entertainment system in and of itself, many people feel is a white supremacist system, and actions and data and history bears that out to some extent there. So you have to recognize that before you realize that you standing on the side of truth is going to be a problem, because these people are invested in a propaganda that's built on lies. So that's one thing. The second thing is, yes, we all have to engage in some level of supporting a white supremacist system if you're going to work every day or you're buying bottled water or whatever you're doing. But you have to know how to wean yourself off of something that eventually is going to lead to your demise. That's why I talk a lot about technology, because to me it's a perfect industry for doing that. And I have all kinds of free guides about that at blacktechguide.com. But the bottom line is that you have to find a way to use it for what it's worth and then move on. And that's what I love that he's done, because like you said, he's made millions. Like, how long are you going to compromise your freedom and compromise the truth and compromise your community, which we all, again, in America have to do to some extent, without saying, listen, I made enough money off you guys. Listen, draw. I'm good. I'm throwing my cards in. And that's what I appreciate about him.
Right. And, you know, I go back to what he said, where he said you can't fire a boss, but also there's a price to be paid for being the boss, you know, because what it means is that for a lot of people, it means starting from the very bottom and building up, you know?
Yeah.
That's the price that you pay. And sometimes those rewards and perks that we so often get used to from working for people who paid the price on other people's backs, but that's a topic for another day. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I mean, I often sit and reminisce, you know, when I was propped up and I used to work for white corporations, and they gave me a title of manager, and they gave me all these stipends and all this other stuff. And if I had to travel, a town car came to get me at the hotel, and then I had this luxurious suite that I was going to be dropped off at the hotel, and then another town car would get me and drop me off at the meeting and all this other stuff. And it's great, and it can give you the illusion, you know, it can give you that illusion that life is good.
And the power is yours.
And that, being close to power can sometimes give you the feeling of actually being powerful. But what I've come to understand was I had to understand, I understood then and I understand now that you do have to give up those things. Sometimes it's only temporary, but I don't want the illusion of a good life if I don't actually have a good life.
It's better to be able to relinquish something than have it snatched from you without you expecting.
Right.
It's gonna get snatched from you. The bottom line is you're just laying back on the sofa with your feet on the coffee table in somebody else's house. It's just not gonna last. Right?
It's not gonna last.
So, and I think that Nick Cannon has done some things on his own. I think that he has some.
That's how he got into trouble, Shaquita. Because he was doing, I think, a comedy special outside of his...
Before that, he's produced, executive produced.
And the comedy special is where the black joke happened, which had nothing to do with the NBC gig that he has. And then they say, well, that thing that you're doing over there, we don't like that you said this and that, and that's interfering with the way we've branded you, our property, and we want you to stop. And we want you to not do it again, and so on and so on. And then he finally said no.
And this is the thing, we as Black people need to be so ready to support him because there's going to be backlash. This happened a couple days ago.
Right.
There's going to be white backlash on this for Nick. And so the thing is, we can't expect entertainers or people with a platform to use their voice for the community, which is themselves as well as us, to say anything or use that platform if we don't support them. So I appreciate Nick Cannon, and I definitely look for what he's going to do. That's going to be independent and on his own. From now on. So
I'm glad you brought that up because we don't want after today or after the next few days when this dies down for us to completely forget about him, because you better believe mainstream media is going to do exactly that. They're going to go out of their way to forget about him and make sure that everybody forgets about him.
And I want that. Like, I literally want us not to be involved in mainstream media. See, when I went to school, one thing I learned, the motto was find a way or make one. We need to find, okay, yes, they have so much over here. That means it's time for us to start building. We can create something significant if we just get to work and stop, again, funnel the money out of the system as much as you can, but you want to take it and divert it back into something that you can own and control.
Right.
And not only own and control from the standpoint of financially, but also the image and the narrative. I talk about the story a lot that Dr. Philip E. McWally said, who is more powerful, the warrior or the story, the person who writes the story? The warrior is going to die and fade. The story is going to live on. So we control our own narratives and we control our image in the media. That is very powerful.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Speaking of which, I want to remind everybody to check out the Black Power, the Black Family Power magazine at MWBshow.com. And every month we're doing a webinar for our people. It's Winning in Business and Marriage. And it's every month, and you can check that out at MWBevent.com, MWBevent.com. And if you want to take a look at past webinars that we've done, you can check them out at our platform, Married Women's Business, which is at marriedwomensbiz.com.
Absolutely. So Noma, look, thanks for having this conversation. Again, everybody, thanks for viewing. We appreciate all the positive comments and emails, especially on our own private platform. We're so excited to have a place, again, that we can develop as a safe place for us to uplift Black family and Black life and talk about the things that are important from a Black perspective at marriedwomensbiz.com. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you in the next segment. Noma, anything?
Oh, no, just thank you for everybody. And thank you, Shaquita.
All right.
Take care, everybody.